Hello and welcome to my patch notes rundown for the 27th of February. This week's update introduces some huge nerfs to Incendiary Shot and Croesus. We'll be taking a deep dive into whether these nerfs were warranted and how it impacts the rest of the game. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Incendiary Shot can no longer be stalled, then use the Chin Chompers or use the Decimation special attack. It will however now apply damage buffs like Death Swiftness, and it can now critically strike. This is definitely an overall nerf to the use of Incendiary Shot. This method was utilized most significantly at Arc Glacier, where you would bind the spawned Glaciites using Chin Chompers, move out of range, switch to a two-handed range weapon, and use Incendiary Shot. Now, because you're out of range, this stalls the ability, allowing you to freely move back into range, switch to Chin Chompers, and release it with that weapon type, causing the Incendiary Shot to be applied to every single Glaciite for a much more impactful result. A more simple but useless example of stalling and releasing with a different weapon type benefit is this clip where I stall Decimate using Dark Lens which have a range of 1 and releasing it with Noxious Scythe which has the weapon benefit of having 2 range. This mechanical use was not overpowered. It had a very powerful niche use at high enraged Glacier. It was very good for 7-man AoD and decent for Nihils. So why was it removed? Because it was unintuitive. There are so many layers of unintuitive mechanics within RuneScape which not only affect normal gameplay, but a lot of them are what makes PvM fun, engaging, and have an aspirational ceiling. Fun being the key word out of them all. I'll give examples of unintuitive mechanics that I find fun and unfun. Let's start with the fun one. Auto attack forcing, otherwise known as 4-tick auto attack. This mechanic allows players to force an auto attack 1 tick earlier than other styles because they can cast an auto attack from the action bars. This is a timed and satisfying mechanic to get down, and it allows you, like this example, to one-shot Solak Roots by auto casting Ice Barrage and Rack on the same tick. Without this, casting auto attacks would be less versatile since I have to have the spell active. In this case, I would have to switch from Exsanguinate to Ice Barrage and then wait for the auto attack animation to go off before using Rack, which forces you to make more switches and it feels more clunky. An example of an unintuitive and unfun mechanic is the clunkiness of throwing vulnerability bombs. If you throw at a target and use an action on the same tick, it cancels the throw, but if you throw it on the ground, it cannot be cancelled. To emphasize further on why this is punishing and why it isn't intuitive, if you're using Detonate, you can throw vulnerability bombs onto the ground without cancelling the charging ability, but again, if you throw it at a target, it'll be cancelled. So let me know what you think. Do you think utilizing Incendiary Shot was fun? Do you think all unintuitive mechanics in RuneScape should be removed? Or do you think it depends whether players find them fun? The timer for an active aura will no longer decrease while logged out. Note that this does not include the green finger aura as it's the only one that has an offline effect. It's also important to mention that the cooldown of the aura will be ticking down when you're offline, while the duration does not. This means that if you want, you could turn on your aura, go to bed, wake up, and use the aura twice without any cooldowns or resets. Improve the lighting in the actual boss arena. I think this is a great change and would love to see more across the rest of the game. It makes the boss arena look so much better, and it gives a greater sense of visual clarity due to the enhanced lighting. The Necklace of Salamancy drop rate from Dream of Aya has been increased. Added a right-click option to make all runes within the Wicked Hood interface. Fix an issue where you were forced into melee range when attempting to attack Zalzuk from the western side. Fix an issue where your movement would appear stalled when hit by Zalzuk's magic attack. Hunter XP in the encounter has been significantly reduced. This nerf is massive and very late. I think that's something we can all agree on. The optimal base XP per hour has been reduced from somewhere around 1.6 million Hunter down to 520k XP an hour. This has made the training method essentially redundant at all levels. Was this nerf warranted? Well, I think the effort did justify the XP rates. However, I don't think it was a particularly fun gameplay loop, especially when compared to engaging content like Big Game Hunter. I think the nerf was a little too harsh, and on a tangent, I think that all the other skilling plots should be buffed to a decent rate so they feel notable when killing Croesus. Common drop quantities have been reduced. I don't think a nerf to the Croesus drop table was necessary unless they're trying to make way for better and new methods of obtaining these resources, like a new skilling boss. Yeah, the values of a lot of these drops are minuscule at this point, but I don't think this change will recoup them to a significant state, nor do I think it's necessary for them to be valuable. Cockatrice eggs will very likely be impacted significantly in the long run, especially if the meta of using familiars shifts back to the one that uses spiritual prayer. But is that a good thing? What's the alternative method of obtaining them? Spamming Spirit Cobra? Is that really an activity JX wants to empower? To me, it's all about what is more fun, and I'd definitely rather do Croesus to gather cockatrice eggs among other things compared to the original method of gathering these resources. Altered contribution thresholds. This has effectively removed the normal drops from tier 11 and 12, meaning that the rarity of uniques remains unchanged, but you'll now expect to receive 16% less normal drops if you achieve maximum contribution. Auto collectors will no longer place drops into the player's inventory during Croesus. Players are now able to rot fungus without having their current action or movement cancelled. Skilling nodes within the Croesus boss encounter can now be blade dived onto, and doing so will start the skilling action. And that's it for this week's patch notes. The Incendiary shot nerf sets a pretty worrying precedent of unintuitive mechanics being indiscriminately nerfed. The Croesus XP nerf was expected, but the drop nerf felt unnecessary. However, it was all delivered way later than it should have been. Anyways, that's it from me. Thank you for watching and take care.